This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the movie Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And today we're going over minute number 65 of the Goonies. Chris, how you doing?
Doing well. Looking forward to talking about a couple little interesting things in this minute.
That's right.
So had a decent weekend. How about you?
No, my weekend was pretty good. It was pretty swell.
That's good.
Yeah, very good.
But I think it'd be more swell if we finished it up with getting into the minute.
That's right. In the previous minute, the Goonies had convinced Troy to help them out of the well. Brand said that Andy was to go up first, and the rest of the Goonies would follow. At minute 65, Mikey has come to a realization and begins to whisper the name Chester Copperpot to himself. Mikey spins around and tries to explain to the rest that Chester Copperpot was a professional and not even he made it this far, and that they had a chance. Mikey and Andy debate back and forth on the reality of continuing the mission. She makes a comment that Chunk might even be dead. Mikey quickly interrupts her by telling her never to say that. Goonies never say die. She says that she's not a Goonie, and she wants to go home. She begins to tie the rope around herself, ready to be hoisted up. Mikey steps forward and asks her what home. He says that pretty soon they won't have a home anymore, and the rest of their lives as they know it is gone. And thus ends minute 65 of the Goonies. So, today we get this kind of rousing speech by Mikey, or we get the first bit of it anyway, and it's pretty solid. A lot of the time, your protagonist will give a big rousing speech to all of his boys and just get them riled up to finish the journey, finish the mission. And there's actually kind of a supercut on YouTube that someone has done where they've taken William Wallace's speech from Braveheart, John Belushi from Animal House, and all of these other movies where there's kind of an obligatory scene where someone's like, what would you do without freedom, or something like that. And I put this like right up there with the best of them. I think that this is actually a pretty moving speech that he gives.
It's too bad that it gets split up because you only get to see half of it.
Yeah.
He's kind of in mid speech, but
before it cuts off, yeah.
It reminds me of the first acting class I took at LSU in college, and one of our assignments was to memorize a monologue.
Really?
And, of course, this would be considered a monologue. And what a great monologue this would have been to memorize.
Yeah.
And some of the different things, we had to say them different ways. We had to do different things that were out of the ordinary, just to learn different ways to deliver things. But I did. Do you remember the movie Malice with Alec Baldwin?
Yeah, Jack Nicholson. No, he wasn't in that.
It was Alec Baldwin.
Yeah,
he was a surgeon.
Yeah,
and he was a really narcissistic surgeon.
You asked me if there's a God complex.
Yes,
is that the one?
And
yeah,
that is the monologue I memorized.
And how old are you?
Junior high? No, it's college. I was probably 19 or 20.
Because I can still see a young Chris McMahon delivering that speech.
I was doing it 19 or 20. You asked me if I have a God complex. Let me tell you something. I am God.
Yeah. That's all I know from that movie. Is it pretty good?
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
So.
Malice Minute.
But anyway, getting back to the minute.
Yeah. A little more uplifting.
It starts off with, and we finished last minute, we talked something about it, where Brand is talking about the sequence of people that are going to go up the well. And you can hear another Spielberg Donner thing where you can kind of hear it in the background. When Mikey starts, you hear a little bit of that Discovery music, and Mikey starts whispering to himself, Chester Copperpot, Copperpot. And then he starts screaming, and like he has that realization. Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of sets up the speech that's about to happen. But before we get to that speech, we'll have that interaction with Andy. But before we even get to that, does it seem like to me that the idea of any of these people getting on that bucket to be pulled up by pulley, that seems like that's a death trap right there.
It's
like, what's more dangerous? Mm-hmm. One by one going up that well when that bucket was never meant to hold that much weight, or going ahead and facing booby traps and the Fratellis from behind? That would be a legitimate question to ask right there.
Pretty much. And it's not a very... Do you think they could have climbed up there without the...
No.
Without the bucket? Not
no.
the assistance of the rope?
No. Especially with the slipperiness and everything.
Yeah.
No, they couldn't do that. None of those people are in good enough shape to be able to do that, but I don't even know if they were.
So it starts off, Mikey... This is another moment where he's... it's manipulating is a strong word, but this is another case of, I think, Mikey manipulating a situation or people to continue his own quest. And again, that quest it's not just self-indulgent. Like, it's not just, he's saving other people with his quest. It's not just him finding treasure for the sake of, finding it for himself. So he's having to do these things, and that's manipulating and working people. We've seen it happen multiple times throughout the movie. But I don't know that it's so much him saying, like, okay, I got to pull, like, what can I use now? What can I do now to manipulate these people to keep them moving?
Yeah, now it's more to the heart.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It's not,
it's not lying to misfertility.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not that trying to find a way out, and all that stuff, trying to get... This is legitimate. This is from the heart. There's no more gimmicks to try to get these people to go further. Right now... He sees that they have a way out, so he's got to do something to convince them. But it leads to a really nice, interesting interaction between Mikey and Andy.
Yeah.
Which, and the Mikey starts off this bit of this speech. Well, not the actual speech that you're talking about, but he starts off this interaction by saying look how far they've come. Chester Copperpot was a pro, and he didn't make it that far.
Yeah.
And Andy's like, we have a chance of getting killed. We need to get to the police. And maybe Chunk made it to the police. And then that's when Andy says maybe Chunk is dead. And Mikey says that don't say that. Goonies never say die. And I will say that I think that we say it better than him. And we say it more emphatic than him at the end of our podcast.
Uh-huh.
But that leads up to a line that Andy says that to me is kind of a gut punch to Mikey. A sobering comment when she says, I'm not a Goonie.
Yeah, and that's the last person he wants to be hearing this from.
And she says, I just want to go home. And it reminded me of, oh, Tono, I just want to go home. It sounded just like it.
It does. Yeah.
The voice that she used was
it really does.
Just like it. So at this point in time, that's when he realizes he has to break into that monologue because, they're leaving. This is it. The ship's being abandoned. Yeah. And now that's when he decides to break out that monologue where, hey, this is my last chance to convince these people to go further.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because, Andy is the last person he wants to hear any sort of grief from because he's got a thing for it, But also because it just means that he's not getting through to these people. So he's really got to pull out the stops. He's really got to sell them on this, and that's where, we'll see how that works out in the next minute.
Yeah, it's just to the point where she's ready to go. She's done with it. She's already had a panic attack. Yeah. She's already freaked out. This is about as calm as she's been in a while. I think she's calm because she knows that, hey, she can get out of there. And she's not even viewing Troy at this point as somebody that's a predator. She just sees him as a way out.
Yeah.
So I wonder how Brand feels about that, about Troy.
Who knows?
Hey, he's sending her up there to
him.
You're right about that, though. I'm telling you. Andy
not,
would go up there, and that bucket would not come back down.
That bucket would not have come back down. So earlier in the minute, Andy says, but Mikey, I'm not a Goonie. And he has this little moment where he's looks down and he says, oh, yeah, I forgot. Like Mikey just assumes everybody's on the same wavelength as him and that everybody's a Goonie, one of the 4 official Goonies that we have between him, Chunk, Data, and Mouth. And so for him to say, it's an interesting little thing that they've included there, is him saying like, oh yeah, I forgot. Let me get out of my head real quick and realize that there's more than just me here.
Yeah, I think that's why I was saying it's a different way to look at it. I said it was kind of a gut punch. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you're not one of us. I don't know. There's different ways to look at that because I think he thought they were all a team.
Yeah.
And this was her breaking away from the team, and that was kind of tough for him to deal with, especially if he has this crush on her too.
Yeah,
that's probably tough for him to hear.
It's good that it's interesting that they chose Andy to be the one that he's going to be having this debate with, and not say one of his best friends or his brother or something like that. It's the person that he really doesn't want to lose the affection for or of. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this ends up, especially for Troy. So, all right, that's all I got for this minute. And if that's all that you have, we'll go ahead and get out of here.
You got it.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening in for minute number 65. We'll see you back here tomorrow for minute number 66. And until then, this is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies
Never say die.
Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram at GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at Patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at Facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/Pele Media.